along with my amazing colleague Hasita. And I honestly didn't know what I was getting myself into. My family, my boyfriend, my friends are here, and they will all tell you that I'm working like 24/7 around the clock because you just get addicted to it. And that's what most of our volunteers are like too. They just work and they put their entire lives and energy into being able to provide the programming that we do, expanding and enriching the programming we offer at these two centers because we care. We care about these kids. These kids are amazing. They're so bright, energetic, loving, and as soon as you walk into the center, you understand. You fall in love with each and every one of them. And this is actually showing footage from our end of the school year celebration at San Marcos. We hosted two of these. We hosted one in San Marcos and the other in Los Arcos, just to celebrate the hard work that these kids did. All of the kids passed and went on to their next grade level, which was really exciting. We helped them with their homework. We helped them with basically having a place where they can have a positive influence from older people. They can feel loved and safe. And we try to offer one-on-one individualized attention to each and every one of them. And our interns are here, some of our interns are here, and they have been working so hard because they understand, they get it, and they know these kids. They're like their older siblings almost. And well, that's really why we're here. We're here to be able to serve more kids in these communities, and maybe in the future expand to different communities throughout Houston, not just these two apartment complexes. And again, it's really with the support of donors, sponsors, community partners that we're really able to provide the services that we do. And just 2 months ago, we started serving the community 5 days a week. We used to only be open Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And imagine that, now we're open Tuesdays through Saturdays. And in San Marcos, we offer 2 different curricula for the kids. We offer ESL and STEM-based curricula based on Texas standards. All of this is done with the work of our educational coordinators, volunteers, and interns. So let's give them a round of applause, please. Honestly, I am always stunned at the output that these interns do. I couldn't imagine all of the work that they have to do, all of the driving hours. We have some people driving from the Woodlands, some volunteers driving from the Woodlands just because they love what we do at Aspire. It's a really nice program because we offer sort of an intimate, close, individualized environment for these kids. It's unlike any other program also in the sense that this is completely free of charge to apartment complexes and students alike. So we offer this service completely free. And actually, we pay to offer this service in one of our centers in Los Arcos. In San Marcos, the owner, Mr. Subhash Sriram, was kind enough to donate the apartment we use as a classroom there. So thank you. And of course, I'm going to introduce him further later, but I also wanted to recognize Mr. Richard Rodriguez, who is standing over there. We call Mr. Rodriguez SEWA's Santa Claus for all that he's done for these kids. Truly, truly, truly an amazing guy. He's connected us to so many different people within the community. He's connected us with Councilman Green. He has offered a field trip to the students to the Houston Museum of Natural Science, where they were able to see dinosaur bones and real live mummies for the first time in their entire lives. They were in awe. You should really see the pictures. They are just completely in awe. And really, honestly, these kids don't get the chance to go to these museums, to these cultural outings. Most of the time, they're stuck in their apartment complex. They have fun, they play soccer, they play around with each other, but it's really important also to explore the talents that they have. And again, with the field trip for the Asia Society, you'd be surprised at how engaged they were with the art. And this was really high-level art. Actually, one of the paintings was of a snow tiger with a gas mask on it. And later on, they offered an arts workshop for the kids. One of the kids drew the exact tiger with a gas mask on it. It was amazing. amazing to talent. And another one drew a picture of the planet Earth with a sign that said "Stop polluting," because a lot of the things that they discussed there was about pollution in China. So these kids have all the potential. We just need to explore it and develop it. And now let's try to see if the video loaded, because I talked your ears off about Aspire.
Before I introduce Councilman Green and his Chief of Staff, I'd like to take a moment to say it's been a real pleasure to work with Aspire and SEWA in general in my management district. The management district is always inundated by nonprofits who obviously want some help in one capacity or another. But you know, many of the nonprofits that come to me still have brochures that are, the ink hasn't dried yet. You know? So when you find a legitimate nonprofit who's doing honest work, it's incumbent upon all of us to really help guide them. And you know, in my capacity on day-to-day, it's not real tasking for me. You know, someone calls me with a problem, and I call someone else who has a solution. You know, but it's really it takes an effort. Braze Oaks is such a wonderful community of a lot of passionate volunteers. Some of them who are in this room. Like no other part of the city, it's connected. It's a small town in a big city. And when I see the amazing work, it's when I see the faces of those children light up with smiles from just some genuine love and attention that's given by a group like SEWA, it makes it really all worthwhile. And I do, once again, I'd really like to give credit to Mr. Subhashir from San Marcos Apartments, because he's given them a place to operate and to grow free of charge. And his heart is just as big as the efforts this organization puts through. And that's the amazing thing about these kind of things. When you have that positive energy, that positive love coming forth through an organization like them, it's like a magnet. Everybody's attracted to it. So I invite you, please join with what they're doing, and what we're trying to do, and help contribute, and help them grow this organization, which is doing phenomenal work for the people who have the least among us. So thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this. But without further ado, I want to invite and introduce our local council member, who's been very instrumental in support for refugee issues in the area, Councilman Larry Green, who I think most of you know from District K. He's had some, I'm going to invite Donald Perkins, who's his Chief of Staff. And before I get too far down the road with Donald doing his thing, I have to say, this is one of my best friends that I've come to know both personally and professionally. And Donald is the one who makes things happen. I mean, Donald is, I work with a lot of council members and their staff, but it's rare to find the amount of attention and real passion that you see with both Councilmember Green and Donald Perkins. And so, with that being said, I'm going to have him up come and say a few words. So because of all those efforts, both Councilmember Green and Donald Perkins, we want to present you with an award from all of us that says, to Larry B. Green, Esquire, Councilmember District K, with heartfelt thanks for your service to our community from SEWA and the Board of Directors of Braze Oaks Management District.
Thank you, Richard. I really appreciate that. My name is Donald Perkins, and as Richard mentioned, I am the Chief of Staff for Councilmember Larry Green's office, and I'm just very honored when he extended the invitation. Of course, regrettably, Councilman Green couldn't be here because our office is always busy. Even on a Friday evening, we're busy, and he get calls, not just working throughout the day, but also in the evening time. He's trying to juggle 3 events, and so he said, Donald, just in case I'm a little late to this one, can you please make sure you attend? Do not hold them up on their agenda. Just keep it moving forward. He may come in a little late, so when he does, I'll make sure I recognize him. I just want to ditto everything that Richard mentioned about the organization that we have here. As you look around, you see that you guys reflect what Houston really is. We are a very multicultural, diverse city. We're the 4th, close to the 3rd largest city in the United States. Of course, the most diverse in Texas, the most diverse in the South region of the United States. But that's what makes us so unique, especially when we're here in Southwest Houston. And working with organizations like this, we're working with all types of people who you don't know what their social economic needs are. And I think this organization kind of gives that more respect of working with these kids to let them know there's more out there than just within. And I think just to expose them to other things outside of what they have is a great accomplishment. And I want to say kudos to that. As you guys know, it's like me working as for a council member, it's public passion. You have that passion to really give back to the community because it makes you feel good inside to know that you actually contribute to something. And with this award, I'm going to definitely make sure Councilman Green knows that this is an organization that he really supported through the Harris County Department of Education through their CASE grant. And he was just so honored to do it. Richard approached us about it and we said, why not? The money was there, he advocated for it, he used his political leverage to get it done. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much for saying that, Mr. Perkins. And actually, we're very, very thankful for the CASE grant. It gave us a brand new computer lab for our San Marcos Center, and the kids have been already doing research projects on their culture and the solar system. So thank you so much. I'm actually glad that Mr. Perkins talked about how diverse Houston is, because I hadn't known this before working for SEWA, but it's #1 in the U.S. for refugee resettlement, and #4 in the entire country. Sorry, world. That makes a big difference, right? The entire world. So we have over 70,000 refugees living here, and 3,000 to 4,000 keep coming in year after year. So it's very important to offer these kinds of services to these communities that oftentimes lack access to, I guess, educational support, emotional support, and really the support they need to transition to life in an entirely different country and an entirely different situation. Many of the kids we receive have never been in a formal schooling environment. They don't know that they can't use the restroom in the same classroom. They don't know that what they need to study. Many of them aren't really completely literate yet, even though they're in 5th grade. And actually, The Atlantic published a study from Stanford University that said that if a kid doesn't know how to read fully by the time they're in the 3rd grade, then they have a 68% chance of dropping out of high school. So we try to reach these kids before that happens and try to get them to aspire to higher education and professional goals. So now I would really like to introduce an amazing lady who I consider, I don't think she knows this, but I consider her as a role model because she has found a way to combine 2 passions of mine, which are law and human rights. And I'm talking about Ms. Rupal Shah. Ms. Shah and her siblings founded and ran IndyCorps, a year-long service program that focuses on engaging second-generation Indians in grassroots service projects in communities throughout India. She has an BA from Harvard and a JD from University of Michigan Law School. And her legal experience includes a judicial clerkship, 2 years as an associate at a New York law firm, 4 years as a federal prosecutor, and 2.5 years as the Assistant Dean of International Affairs at the University of Michigan Law School. Her service resume includes reviving Ashoka, Bangladesh, assisting on a Native Hawaiian mural project, launching Ahmedabad Ultimate, a sports for development program, and attempting a community garden in her 8-leaf neighborhood. Put your hands together for Ms. Rupal Shah.
Thank you for inviting me today. It's a real honor for 2 reasons. One, because I had a chance yesterday to see these volunteers at work, and wow, I mean, you can hear it in their stories, you can hear it in the voice, you can see it in the video, but I'm glad you're getting a good chance to really meet some of these volunteers. So I want to do three things. I wanted to congratulate the SEWA volunteers for being sort of the beginning of their service journey, and for many it seems like it's going to be a lifelong one. I wanted to share a little bit of what we learned from IndyCorps about service. Because originally when I thought I was coming to speak, I thought I was coming to speak to the volunteers themselves, so the rest of you get to benefit from their good work and some of the things I would have shared with them. And then the third is I wanted to have all of us think a little bit about sort of who we are and what we do in every moment, and how that really has real value, because actually Sonali and Subhashji had said that children are sponges, right? They don't just learn what you put in front of them, they learn everything that you do. And I'm staying with my parents right now, and I'm surprised at how many mannerisms they have that I have, and I didn't know where they came from. So you'd be surprised at the kinds of things that you pick up, and children pick up from what's happening around you. So first of all, I actually do want to acknowledge the SEWA volunteers that are here. So if you're a SEWA volunteer who's been in San Marcos, Los Arcos, or even just in the office because the work you're doing is enabling them, could you please raise your hand? Come on out. Over this way. I need to see you guys. Can we give them a really, really, really good round of applause? And because I believe that we're all co-learners, I actually wanted to pick on a couple of them. So those of you who are way back in the back, I'm going to ask these two. I want you to say your name and one word, just one word, of a value that you think being a SEWA volunteer has helped you really nurture and experience. Don't make me pick on you, because that's what we do in the law. So, anybody want to volunteer? Really, really loud so everybody can hear you.
My name's Ray. Andrea, and one word, compassion.
Nice. Thank you, Andrea. I need 3 more people to volunteer.
Dina, and one thing that makes us have a top is perseverance.
Nice.
Sakshi and patience.
Compassion, perseverance, and patience. One more.
My name is Buki, make a difference.
Nice. Okay. Thank you, Buki. All right, so those are actually really related. So in IndyCorps, it seems really, really glamorous, right? Because people are going from America to India to spend a year in service, and you can have these like stories that sound a little bit exotic. And we often try to take that away to bring it down to sort of the basic level of what everyday service looks like. And so we had this motto that was on our wall that we would use pretty regularly, and that we actually talked about a lot. And it's an Aboriginal tribal quote from an activist group. And there's a woman named Leela Watson who is credited with actually the quote, but she often says that she doesn't want to be credited because it's a collective process. And what she says is, if you've come here to help me, then you're wasting your time. If you come because you understand that your liberation is bound with ours, then let us work together. And it's a really, really important quote, because there's a real difference between helping and understanding that your liberations are bound together. And what I think is really, really amazing about that is that it's something that often takes people a really long time to learn, because even our IndyCorps fellows, as much as I value and appreciate them, came for a project, right? They came for a year project. Somebody was working on a health initiative, somebody was working on an entrepreneurship thing, somebody else was working on helping, actually, it's kind of funny, he actually has composted 19,000 pounds of food waste in Brooklyn, New York, and he was in India doing an ecological environmental project. And if you ask each of these folks, like, what was the most important to them, I think what you'll find is what's most important to these SEWA international volunteers as well. It's connection, right? It's the ability to inspire a young person to solve their own community's issues. It's not going in and fixing it for them. Education's a medium, right? The Los Arcos Center, the San Marcos Center are both amazing because they're teaching ESL and they're teaching a STEM curriculum. But what they're really doing is they're letting these young people know that they matter and that they can do something. And that's really, really, really important. And if connection is one of the three things that I think that this quote really brings to heart, one of which is, it's not just what you give them, right? I have to say that if you look at the three people that I can think of off the top of my head, Pulkit is now running a startup in Silicon Valley, and he's the one that was doing the entrepreneurship program in Rajasthan. Abhirami Natarajan was working on a tribal health workers training program in a small town in Nilgiri, down south of India, and she's now just graduated from Harvard Medical School, right? And so these folks had it also inspired their own journeys in service in ways that they didn't know. They didn't come to India knowing that they were going to be entrepreneurs or they were going to go to medical school. It's something that they were able to sort of recognize and acknowledge about themselves because of the ability to serve others, right? So when you're doing something selflessly, the amount that comes back to you, they say that about your hand, right? That if you point at somebody, 4 of the fingers or 3 of the fingers are coming back at you. The same really happens in service as well. And then the third thing I think is super important, especially with Councilman Green's office and the way that Mr. Rodriguez spoke about it, is a sense of what it means to build community. In some ways, there's a lot of talk about othering right now, especially in the United States. If you look at what Black Lives Matter is worried about, they're worried about the fact that nobody sees them as important. If you look at what's happening in our political situation, there's a lot of finger pointing about who's who. And that happens not because people are mean, but because they don't know people who don't look and talk like them, right? If we never are in a community that isn't the exact same story as mine, I come from a Indian immigrant family, and we were having this really fun conversation which feels like everybody has the same story. They all came with $8 in their pocket, and they all worked really, really hard to make it, and their children all are really successful and smart, and are doctors and lawyers, right? And so you think of the immigrant story as that, but I know from having spent enough time now in India that these people who came, and I have to give them some credit, we were talking about that as well, you know, did something pretty profound, right? They left India at a time when you didn't have cell phones, that's for sure. You had to like book a phone that was happening 48 hours later, or you wrote a letter to your parents, and that's it. You know, that's when you have just had a child and don't know what to do. I mean, that's a really difficult thing. So there's a lot of honor for them for what they were able to do. But their story about how they came, the only immigrants that were allowed from India back in the 70s and 80s were professionals, right? So the class of people who came here valued education already, and they were willing to sacrifice. So, and they were able to have my mother, for example, to stay home and really give us opportunity to do extracurricular activities. That's what enabled my service, right? I know I'm never going to be homeless, so it's really easy to take the kinds of risks that I have, right? But to honor that sort of platform is important, and to recognize that not everybody has it, right? If you've been told for generations that you're actually property and you're not worth anything, it's a really different place to come from, right? If you come from a place where both parents have worked really hard, so I just think that, and it's not, and I'm not getting excuses for anyone, because there are fabulous success stories in everybody's community, but if you spend enough time in different people's communities, what you learn is that none of us have the answer to all things. It's actually by working together that we're really able to see the wisdom in our own cultures and in others, right? I think it moves all of us forward. So that idea of liberation and being bound together really comes together when you recognize that as teachers, we're actually co-learners. We're getting so much from the ability to have the opportunity to watch these young people thrive and grow, and to see, you know, that light kind of light up and shine the way for others is a really, really powerful thing. And I think that, at least from a spiritual sense, the idea of seeking liberation is something that has a sense of lightness of being, of almost being able to do way more than your actual physical personhood can. And Albert Einstein had this great quote that somebody sent me today that says, "Our tasks must be to free ourselves by widening our circle of compassion." So thank you who came up with, Andrea, that as their value. By widening our circle of compassion to embrace